Hey guys, your boy MKS here, back with another video. For once, I've woke up in early because I managed to get up about like 9 o'clock, even though I went to sleep at probably about half 3 or 4 in the morning. So I've done quite well to get by on a few hours sleep, but I wasn't feeling too good in the morning. I'm normally not a very good morning person. Um, but yeah, this is some. I wanted to do Black Fridays, the very as I call it, in my strange speech, but with my strange patterns and things like that. But I didn't quite get round to doing so in October, Black History Month here in the UK. So I missed out on that. There were so many things I wanted to do actually. I just wanted to get some of the negatives out of the way in the intro, but there were so many things I wanted to do in October, like travel to Italy and Celtic to work with the Italian football and Celtic FC with dyslexic and record black groups, respectively, and work to raise awareness in Africa about dyslexia and things like that. And there were so many different things, but I was a bit behind schedule with the Black Fridays because I suppose I didn't have the energy to make those videos, and I sort of got a bit distracted or demotivated or whatever. So I thought I'd delay it a bit, but also I had a few technical issues. But yeah, some of the negatives out of the way, so I didn't manage to get around to doing this in October, so I'm a bit behind schedule. And I have so many plans. Also, I didn't get a lot of things done that I wanted to in October. Well, I didn't get anything done really, except for making YouTube videos and Facebook videos, which I'm pleased with, I suppose, in a way, getting to do that. I'm appreciative of that. That's the word I'm looking for. Appreciative of those sort of things. But yeah, I didn't really get anything done concrete that I wanted to put into practice. But I'm hoping that I will somehow be able to do so in November, although November has started off really badly, I've got to admit. But hopefully it's just getting the worst out of the way. Yeah, hopefully I'll find a way to put my ideas into action this month. Although I did want it to be because October's like Sex Awareness Month as well, and it was Black History Month here in Britain, I thought it would be good to have dyslexic groups like traveling together. And I would have loved to have interviewed dyslexics and had Zoom chats with a group of dyslexics, sometimes one-to-one, sometimes as a group, and network together on YouTube and all sorts of different things like that. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. So hopefully in November, I'm thinking also Neurodiversity November for the whole of November, given alliterations. But anyway, yeah, I say I'm dyslexic, so I need extra time. But hopefully in November, I'll get a lot of those things done. Also, I was in a really foul mood, as I often am in the morning. Sorry, not in February. I'm not even in February, but in the mornings, I'm often in a bad mood. But yeah, my mum put my jacket in the wash and moved my stuff, which I get really frustrated with. I think I overreacted, so I had to calm down before I made this video. But as I sometimes have to do, so just confessing up to that, overreacting to that, and stuff like that. For my sins. But anyway, on to the topic at hand. Sorry. Black Friday. I was talking before about how Black Mondays and Black Monday and Black Wednesday are about were like when there was a market crash, and how perhaps historically, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, like things that were seen as dark or black were seen as negative, and Africa was seen as a dark continent, and some people probably still see it that way. But I heard something about, or I read something about Black Friday, where it said that it started off when from the days of slavery, when they used to sell slaves at a discount, apparently. So I don't know if that's true or not. I must admit, it's one of my famous or infamous lines. I don't know whether it's true or not, but they say that Black Friday started with like slave trade, when they were selling slaves for cheaper, in better English or whatever. But unfortunately, so it's apparently that's how it started. I don't know if that's a rumor or a myth, or it really is true. I don't know, but again, my infamous line. I don't know whether it's true or not, but quoting what someone said about that. But I'd love to know if you know any history about Black Friday. But I thought it would be cool if, let's assume it did start with like when slaves were sold at a cheaper discount, or for more racist times, just like Black Monday and possibly Black Wednesday, maybe possibly those days as well. I thought, what about if I turned it into a positive? But I think that covers everything for the intro. I wanted to get some of the negative things about losing my temper and not getting things done, or vice versa, out of the way. But anyway, This intro has gone on quite a bit, so as ever, I hope this is not too cringeworthy, but here are some ideas for Black Fridays that vary. So here goes. So number one, I was thinking of things that begin with F, the cleaner version, shall we say, for Facebook and especially and YouTube. But so yeah, due to my alliterations, as I do with Mondays and all the other days. So yeah, I was thinking, like, say for instance, finances. How can Black people be supporting their finances? And that kind of thing, all sorts of things that begin with F. So that was number one. Point number two, how can Black people network together around the world in terms of supporting each other with financial education? Now on YouTube there is the Black Financial channel by Dr. Boyce Watkins. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to see how Black people could network together around the world, and allies like myself as well, Black people and allies around the world could network together to help Black people to learn about financial education, economic education, if I'm going on alliterations, but for Fridays I'll say financial education, financial/economic education, shall we say. But yeah, how can Black people learn about finances and how to control their finances and do as well as possible, like invest and make the money go further, and also get savings and things like that, and all sorts of things that would help them financially. Maybe they could advise each other as well, and look at ways to support, let's say, support Black-owned businesses, Black banks, Black people to set up their own banks and businesses and invest in their community, and how banks generally could invest in their community and investors generally, and that kind of thing, private equity and just general, anyone who invests and that kind of thing. Number three, I'd love to know what freedom means to Black people and members of the Black community around the world. Now, I've talked on my YouTube about what I would do if I was free, or what freedom means to me and things like that, and I hope to cover more videos on that in the future. But I'd love to hear from the Black community about, like, what freedom means. Again, going on the alliteration and the fact that it's number three. By the way, on a more positive note, I was going to say in the intro, but I know the intro dragged on, but I often say, does this guy resemble me? But I think it's quite a nice, cheery mug one my sister's got me, so that's something to appreciate. And I should look more at what I appreciate. Number four, I often think of, like, supporting Black farmers around the world, and possibly raising their profile and looking at ways to support them. Again, Black people could, and also, I'd say, Black people and allies such as myself, people from other minority communities and whatnot. People who want to see Black financial, economic empowerment and that kind of thing. So supporting Black farmers. Number five, on that note, there could be like a Black Farmers Fund that supports Black farmers, and also I'd love to support Black people to work on their ambitions generally, as I often say, but in this case I'm going to say farmers, as in areas like farming or business or different areas. Obviously, I suppose farms are types of businesses. But yeah, supporting Black farmers around the world, even from Britain and across Africa, Australasia, and all over the world, and maybe look at what they can do by networking together, how they can support each other. Again, there could be a list of Black farmers. I talked before about, like, Blacklisted could be a list of a directory of sort of Black-owned businesses, and that could include obviously farms and things like that, and looking at how to support Black farmers all around the world. Again, going on alliterations, and also Black people working together in the film industry and different fields like that. Again, I'm focusing on fields that begin with F, like films, farms, and things like that. Number six, talking about things that begin with F, like football. Also, I'm going to include the cleaner version, but on a serious note, football, as I often say, I'd love to see what Black people can contribute to Italian football. I'm a bit biased on me. Maybe you could say we don't deserve it. As a fan of Italian football, no, I'm not Italian, but we, as in Italian football or Italy itself as well, doesn't deserve that blessing, if you like. But it's a biased blessing, perhaps. But maybe, as I often say, that how Italians could improve relations with the Black community around the world, the Black diaspora, and vice versa, how they can improve relations with each other. Obviously, so obviously a two-way street. But, like, for instance, I often say about the migrants that come to Italy, often from Africa, parts of Africa, like migrant football teams. I know there are already a few, but I hope there'll be even more. Those who are good at building could help build stadiums, also younger people could play football. And as I often say again, that like Brazil has been is very diverse and it's been mixed from a very long time, and they've benefited from, I suppose, in football at least, from migration from Africa and Europe and whatnot. So maybe Italy could do the same. Again, another country I nearly forgot to say is France. Like, again, I know I mentioned this before, but France benefited a lot from migration in terms of football. I know some people might say in terms of economics and integration and whatnot, they haven't benefited so much. But in terms of football, I think they've benefited a lot. They've had great players like Kante, N'Golo Kante, who played for Leicester and Chelsea. He's a very good player. I mean, now he's a bit old, but in his day he was very good. People said, even my dad, who's not that much into football, said Kante is the man. Like, he's the one who helped Leicester to win the league, and he believed Leicester would have still won the league with Kante. But it's hard to say one player. I mean, a one-man team. But he does, like, he was, if he's playing in the right position, he holds the glue together. But my point being that Italy could benefit from migration. Like, they could get players like Henry, Trezeguet, Kante, Vieira, and the list could go on. Wiltord and others. People like Zidane. I'd love Italy to have our own version of, well, I say again, I know I'm not Italian, but in football, Italian football, its own version, our own version as a fan of players like Zidane or even Pele or people like that. So maybe having people from Algeria, Nigeria, Cameroon, whatnot, can do well. I think it's quite interesting that African teams don't do so well in the World Cup or things like that. But when it comes to when they play in European countries like France or Germany, they often seem to do well. More recently in Germany as well. It's another country that did well with a very diverse team. So maybe they could benefit. I think there's no room for nepotism, so I think they should pick the best players, not just the best in terms of individual talent, but also as a team. So rather biasly, I love to benefit Italian Football 7. Same for Celtic. Another thing I was thinking is faith. I'm quite weak in my faith, and I suppose I believe in God out of fear rather than hope. Really, as I said recently, I told someone recently, I've been thinking about quite a lot. Personally, I've got to admit, it feels really awful to say, but I think it feels like it would be better if there was no God, if I was wrong. But then again, part of me thinks if I'm really dreaming, I just hope God will prove me wrong and show me that He is good. But bringing it back to obviously Black people in the Black community, I'd love to know what Black people's views are on faith. Like, it could be opinion polls and statistical analysis or facts, talking about on the faith of many Black people. Like, what's the most common faith amongst Black people, and like, how do they feel that they're treated by different faith groups and things like that. So it would be interesting to hear Black people's view and the Black community's view on faith and things like that. Number 8, how can they network together, gain finances, and help each other financially and share information and advice and facts about the Black community. Again, I think it'd be interesting to hear different facts about the Black community and hear views and opinions from the Black community. I'd love to interview Black people and members of the Black community and whatnot, and talk about their views. Again, sometimes there could be one-to-one interviews, and sometimes there could be as groups on Zoom. And it's interesting to see there is the Africa Dyslexia Organisation, and they are talking about how people from across, they want to raise awareness of dyslexia in Africa, which I think is brilliant, and they're coming together to raise more awareness, which is something I wanted for quite a while. But someone accused me of trying to be a white saviour, whatever that means, without really knowing. I think they just looked at my name and didn't actually know that I'm actually from a mixed background, which is Anglo-Indian. A different type of AI to the one in the world, fortunately or otherwise. But yeah, as an ally, and I think what people should look at is what the intention is of the people who are trying to support. Is it really to build the Black community in this case, or is it to fund things that actually don't support the community over time? I know there are probably conspiracy theories about European countries, America, and others that invest in Africa and things like that, and about their long-term goals and whether it really is to benefit Africa in the long term. But I think if you believe someone does have positive intentions or have no sort of reason to doubt them, then I think I'm not too keen on the word white savior or stuff like that. But again, I mean, I wouldn't class myself as white, so I think this person was judging me without really knowing. But anyway, that's a whole different topic, I suppose. But anyhow, number 10, and finally, number 10, how can we support young black people to reach their goals, whether that's in football, athletics, or farming, finances, working in banking, businesses, or things like that, or any other area. I'd love to know your suggestions and what you think generally. And I am out. Peace and love.